All right. Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Petal Talk podcast. I am your host, Allison Crowder, and today I have on someone very, very special to me. Her name is Donna Dearman, and she is a very loyal guest of ours and someone who has really grown into kind of myself as not only one of my favorite guests, if not my most favorite guest, but a mentor. She's someone who has a lot of insight in our community, kind of where we live, and someone who has a lot to share. And really excited to have her on the podcast today because for those of us listening or watching online or listening audio only, Donna has a really interesting story and a lot to share. And we are going to have a lot of really beautiful takeaways, and we're going to have a really beautiful conversation. I know we will. And I'm so glad that you're here. And with that being said, she needs no further introduction. We have Miss Donna Dearman on the podcast today. Hi, welcome to Petal Talk, where skincare meets soul care.
Thank you, Allison.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling fine.
Are you excited?
I'm very excited.
When we first talked about you coming on the podcast, what did that look like? Did I just jokingly say you should come on, or like how did that conversation even come to be?
I think, if I recall correctly, you had just said something about podcasts, and then I found one day and I listened to it, and then you said, I complimented you. I told you what a great podcast it was, and then you said to me, well, you have to be on the podcast. And so here I am on the podcast.
And here I am. We're so excited.
Yay.
You have so much to share. You have so many life experiences and so much knowledge and wisdom. You are so wise.
Well, it could be because I could old enough to be your grandmother. So there you go. No, we'll do that. So
please.
That's maybe why I have a little bit more life experience.
I know, but I love that though, because we haven't had anyone like you on the podcast. And I was sharing this with you before, but we haven't had anyone who, I don't say is just, I guess, I have air quotes on, but you have such a different perspective, and you're not totally you're not an esthetician, you're not a hairstylist, but you do have so much to share, and you have so much love in your heart for your community and for the people around you and for this place. Honestly, you're our number one fan, and I love that for us and for you. And this is going to be a really special episode, and I'm just so happy that you're here, and I just can't wait.
Okay.
So let's take it back. I know that you just joked about how you could probably be my grandma. I don't think that that's totally true, but maybe you could be my mother. But
I really do.
Well, tell me, let's go back. Let's reel it all the way back.
Okay.
Where did you grow up?
Miami, Florida.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
Third generation from Miami.
Okay. Where was your family originated from?
My mother was from Miami. I believe her ancestry was Scottish and English.
Okay.
And my father was born in Key West.
Okay.
He was of Hispanic descent. His mother died. He was the last of 9 children. She died in childbirth.
Oh my gosh.
And his father could not take care of a newborn. And so he ended up going to live with an aunt and uncle in Miami, a relative of the family, and he was brought up by them.
Okay. And so you've really been a Florida girl your whole life.
Except for the 16 years that I lived in Alaska.
Yes, which we'll get to, because I do want to touch on, because I do think that's very cool. So
it was very cold.
Well, I should say, yeah, it was actually very frigid.
That's all right. It was very cold.
So tell us about growing up in Miami, living in Miami in that time. I can only imagine it was probably like a little crazy.
Well, it was... I'm a 50s baby, so it was in the 50s.
Yeah.
It was a very traditional,
okay,
warm, loving household.
Good.
Very stable. I have a brother 5 years younger. He's an attorney. He's in Miami as well. My mom was a stay-at-home mom with me for quite some time, and then she had my brother. And I learned all of those domestic things, except for cooking. I learned all of those domestic things from my mother. Keep a clean house, always look like a lady, present yourself well, think before you open your mouth, although my mother could open her mouth quite often. But those kinds of things. So, it was a good childhood. I lost my dad early.
Oh.
He died at the age of 44.
Oh, wow.
From kidney disease.
Oh, wow.
And we were the first family the first non-hospital people that had a kidney dialysis machine brought to our house. They trained my mother.
Wow.
And she had to do all of that for him 3 times a week. So it was quite daunting. Well, we found out he was sick when I was in 4th grade, so I was about 9, and he passed away when I was 22.
Oh, wow. That's a long
so
battle.
We lived with that whole thing.
Yeah,
it was hard. It was hard.
Do you think that equated to why you have such a caregiving disposition?
No, because it's funny you ask that, because I'm not really a caregiver. I'm not good at caregiving.
Okay.
I think sometimes, I don't know if this sounds right, but I think I'm too empathetic to be caregiving.
Sure.
And it's just all consuming,
like crippling
to me. So I can't. I went to X-ray school.
Okay.
I wanted to be an X-ray tech. I don't know where that came from, because I knew I'd wanted to be a teacher since I was 4 years old. But at any rate, I went through that, and I quit. I said, I can't. I'm not doing this. This isn't. You know what you can do,
right?
And I don't want to do anything I can't do if I can't do it well.
So in the 4th grade, you decide, I'm going to be a teacher?
No, when I was 4 years old.
Oh, I'm sorry. 4 years old.
Tell
me.
It's really cute. So we lived in a very nice neighborhood in Miami, and we lived on a corner, and right across the street was the elementary school, Broadmoor Elementary School. If anybody from Miami knows Broadmoor Elementary, yay, Broadmoor. At any rate, I was fascinated with school. I couldn't wait to go to school. So every morning when the bell, because I could hear the bell ring, I'd hear the bell ring. I'd walk outside. I'd sit on the corner. I had some books, and if I looked just the right way, I could see right into a 2nd grade classroom.
Oh my gosh.
And my mom, being the watchdog on me that she was, she could find me. She could go to any window in the house, and I was still there. When I would see them line up to go to lunch, I would walk inside. My mom had my lunch ready.
Oh my gosh.
I ate my lunch.
It's like tutoring.
Then I would go back outside. I would see the class walk back. And then they'd go out the back door, because we had back doors in that elementary school, and they were out on the big playground. Well, I would walk around back my house, because if I looked the right way, I could watch everybody on the playground.
Like, I want to go there.
So if they were kicking the ball, I was kicking the ball, whatever it was. And that's what I did. And from that, I remembered telling my mom one day, I'm going to be a safety patrol when I get in the 5th grade.
Yeah. And did you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you decide did you just love education?
I loved everything about school.
Okay.
I mean, I loved books. I loved pencils. I loved erasing the board. I thought teachers were just, to me, teachers were the epitome of everything.
Okay.
And unfortunately, my 1st and 2nd grade teacher did not leave a good impression, which then planted the seed in my mind. When you become a teacher, don't be like Miss this one and Mrs. that one. Yeah. And then 3rd and 4th grade, they were fabulous. 5th grade, thank you, Mr. Watson. He's the one that said I should be a safety patrol.
Yeah.
And it was very, very interesting. Mm-hmm. It was all of elementary school was interesting. And then, of course, I was in that kind of thing. I'm sure you went to a middle school, but I went to a traditional junior high school, so 7th, 8th, and 9th grade.
Okay. And then you decide to, when you're in high school, you're like, I'm going to do X-ray things, or you're going to do teaching?
No, I was still going to do teaching. I'm a foreign language buff.
Oh.
So luckily for me, the high school that I went to was on a split shift. They offered 5 foreign languages.
Oh my gosh.
I took all of them plus my regular classes. I would go to school from 7 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon.
You love school.
I love school.
Were you a good student? I'm sure you were.
Except, like you, in math.
Ugh.
Do not mention math to me. I break, even now.
You do have goosebumps.
I get sick. I can't do it.
It's so bad.
But I can tell you why I can't do math. I finally figured it out. My degree is in special education. Mm-hmm. There is something called an instructional learning disability and something considered a disability because of something else.
Sure.
I finally realized, probably when I was working on my master's degree, that I had an instructional disability when it came to math, because that not to be named second grade teacher, I can remember where I sat in the class, what I had on that day. I can still feel the warm breeze blowing in the back door. She was doing arithmetic on the chalkboard. And I raised my hand to ask a question, and she turned around and she said, "You have got to be the stupidest child I have ever taught in my 40-year career." And at that point, I completely I shut down. I shut down. Do not mention math to me.
Oh my gosh!
I shut.
So
down.
That's a real thing when you go through something.
No, you can. Because
I have a memory like that. That's similar.
You do, and then the seed has been planted. You aren't good enough.
No, seriously.
You can't.
No, seriously.
And so that was that.
And that was that.
And that was that.
So you decide, though, but you're not going to be like her because she's the worst.
She was, yes.
You decide you're going to go to college.
I went to college, but it took me a while to, it took me a while because in that time, I had a scholarship to Stetson University.
Okay.
I came up here to Stetson.
Okay.
But I went home after the first semester. Okay. My dad got really, really sick then, and it was just, I couldn't do it. I needed to be with my family. So I went to the community college. Mm-hmm. I ended up with 2 different degrees out of the community college. And then when my dad passed, I was married then.
When did you get married? What age?
I was 20.
And how did you guys meet?
High school.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
High school. Yeah, high school.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we did.
That's sweet.
So, that was sweet. But it didn't last. But anyway, he was in school, I was in school, so we decided we were going to go to the University of Florida. Mm-hmm. So we
together.
We both took off. We lived in married student housing at University of Florida. I was working a full-time job for doctors. I was a medical transcriber, so I was working for a group of general surgeons. He was going to school full-time. He was working on a master's degree at that time. I was still trying to finish my undergrad, and I did. And then here's another twist and turn on my journey to being a teacher. We were at a party one evening for his class. He was a cardiac critical care nurse.
Okay.
And so we were at a little get-together with his people and everything and things. So somebody walks up to me and says, "Oh, I understand that you recently graduated." And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, what are you going to do now?" And I said, "Oh, I think I'll be a flight attendant." Well, he heard that, and he said, "A flight attendant?" He goes, "They would never hire you." Now, he did not mean it the way I took it. And I went, "Oh, right? Watch this."
Oh, my gosh.
So I then applied on paper, because back in the day, you only applied on paper. I applied on paper to 2 airlines, Eastern Airlines and Air Florida, which both are no longer with us.
Okay.
And I was hired by both airlines off paper only,
because
without a physical interview on the same day. And I went with Eastern because their starting pay was more.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say it's because you're so charismatic, but they didn't even know that yet.
They didn't know that yet.
Oh,
and so then I flew for 8 years.
I did not know that either.
While I told you there's a lot of layers to this onion, honey.
Seriously.
So I flew for 8 years, and during that 8 years, I worked on my master's degree, and I did some, other stuff. I kept flying, until finally I said, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't where I want to be.
What were you studying for your master's for? Like, what was
my master's degree was in special education, and my concentration area was deaf education. So I taught deaf students.
That's so fascinating. I did not know that as well. When you were flying as a flight attendant, you were in school, but clearly you're in school though.
Because you're working on my
this
master's.
is going to be temporary regardless. Yeah. Flight attendant, everything was always going to be temporary.
Well, then you know how it is. Somebody challenges you, you win the challenge, and you just can't go, I won and walk away. You got to prove yourself, right? So I did. And I did teach in the training school for Eastern for a while because I was just tired of running here, running there. Just let me go.
Was it fun though?
You know, back then it was. I don't know that I have a lot of respect for people that are flying today, especially given everything.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for those that became flight attendants at a young age and kept on. That was their career.
Yeah.
I absolutely.
What year were you a flight attendant? What chunk of time?
From 80 to 88.
And I can imagine, and this is going to definitely show my age, that it was so different before 9/11.
Oh, yeah.
I can only imagine.
Well, people dressed up to get on. Even
that's what I was going to say.
Well, at least they didn't wear their pajamas and their slippers on the plane.
Right.
I mean, they would come dressed nice. They were polite. They were courteous. Even people sitting all the way in the back of the plane. It was also the time when everybody could smoke on a plane, and it was
a lot.
That was kind of not so cool.
Yeah,
but
totally.
At any rate, At any rate,
so you decide when you're done with your master's at this point, and now you're saying, now I'm going to be in education.
So I got out. Like? What I did is I went to the local Florida International University, and I said, "Here's my transcript," because my degree from University of Florida was in sociology. So I said, here's my degree. How fast can I get a teaching certificate? What do I have to do? So I had to take, I think, 3 or 4 classes. Boom, 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 boom. I did those. I needed to do an internship. I went to the high school I graduated from. Boom, boom, boom. Did my internship. And the next thing I knew, I'm getting a phone call from folks in the special education department in Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and they said, we have a 3100 position, which is an interim teacher position for whatever reason. At another high school, we need a teacher for the deaf kids. And I went, what? And they said, will you take it? And I said, well, don't you have anybody else? And it was like, no. And I went, okay, well, tag on it. And I go, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Well, I did. I was in a self-contained, everybody was in there self-contained. There were three teachers in there, and the kids would just walk around in a circle. They'd sit at this table, because those aren't huge classes, they'd sit at this table. And I remember it was really funny because in schools during that time, they would usually put all the special needs kids on one row.
Sure.
And they would all be together. So it was a kind of little family. And I'll never forget, one day I was standing there teaching my class, signing to them, and all of a sudden one of them signs to me, are you hearing music? You have rhythm. Why are you signing like that? Well, what happened, there were autistic children next to us, and some of them wore helmets because they were what we refer to as headbangers. And somebody was banging their head, and that's all I could do.
Oh, my gosh.
The other 2 teachers were used to it. Right. I wasn't, and I'm
like on a beat.
It was just terrible. So that was just kind of funny. And then I was called into the principal's office at that school one day, and he sat me down and he said, I want you to know how happy we are you're here. I said, well, thank you very much. He said, but I've already had a phone call from the principal at the other school, the school I graduated from, because they wanted me to come back there to teach. And he's already told me he doesn't care if this position stays for 1,000 years. At the end of this semester, you're going back to him. And I went, oh, well, this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
they're fighting over me. So anyway, I went back teaching at the school I graduated from, which was kind of strange because there were still teachers teaching there that had been my teachers. And it was so, and it was so weird. And I would still call them by their last name. And then they go, well, we're colleagues now. I go, oh no, you'll always be, It was just
Mrs.
really
Johnson.
funny. Yeah, it was just really, really funny. And so I got back there, and I wasn't really digging the schedule that they had given me. And I had an idea, and I went to my principal one day and I said, I want to teach a sign language class, American Sign Language class here. And he goes, we don't have that. And I said, I know we don't have it. I said, but we can try. And he goes, I'm not going to pay you a supplement for an extra class. I said, I'm not asking you to. I just want to see if it gels.
Why?
Let's see.
Why did you want to do that?
Oh, because I love languages, and I knew American Sign Language, and I just wanted to introduce it. Well, long story short, the kids were beating the door down to take it because, like many people, oh, well, you just wiggle your hands in the air, and that's a lot easier than an oral language. And I would tell them, if you think this is going to be a walk in the park, don't sign up for this class, because first of all, you're going to hop to it and do it right, or you're not going to attach my name to whatever it is you're doing. So at any rate, we went forward with that, and then I decided that the reason maybe people looked down on American Sign Language the way they did at the time was because it wasn't offered in any schools.
Right.
It wasn't a thing.
It was like a specialty school.
Well, yes. Well, yeah, definitely
like
it was.
A separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, and now remember, I wanted to teach this to hearing students. Instead of taking German, instead of taking French, you're going to take American Sign Language with me. So I found a state senator, Mike Wise was his name. He was in North Miami Beach. I went up, I called him up, and I said, I need to talk to you about something. And he said, are you in my district? And I said, no, I'm in Miami Springs, but I need to talk to you. And he said, come on up. I made an appointment. I went to see him, and I told him what I wanted to do. He said, I'll do the bill. I'll help you through the process. I will be your sponsor, so to speak. Now, I know nothing about getting a bill, because now I'm asking to pass a bill.
Right. Oh
in
my
the
gosh.
state of Florida.
That's so you, though.
To give American Sign Language credibility and have it be offered in the high school. It took 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
And I fought like a dog.
I'm sure.
I fought. And I would get these crazy phone calls at the last minute. The committee's meeting tomorrow. You need to be here in Tallahassee by 8:30. And I'm like, I'm in Miami. How do you?
Yeah.
I was flying back, and then
sure.
I would have to tell him, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I have to be back in Tallahassee. He goes, I'm sick and tired of getting substitutes for you because of your. I said, in the long run, it's going to benefit so many people. And he would just like flick me off.
Yeah.
So anyway, I will never forget. Let's fast forward to the end of the 5 years. They called me up. They said, you testify tomorrow before the education committee. And I said,
how old are you when you're doing this?
Oh, this was 1990. I was 26.
That's crazy.
26?
You're so young to be doing
26?
that.
No, 30. No. I was 36.
Still, like 36. That's a huge
I was 36.
feat.
Well, especially for somebody who is rather, maybe I don't always portray it, but I am rather timid and not, my self-confidence then wasn't where it should have been.
Sure.
So I get up there to testify before this committee, and all I can say is I think through every step of the way, God was watching over me. Because so many, this is going to blow your mind totally. So many things just fell into place. One. So I get there, and I'm sitting there, and I was supposed to be the first person to testify. Well, then somebody comes running up to me and says, you're not going to be first now. Well, then that just made the jitters all the more worse. So I'm just sitting there. Yeah. And I had little 3x5 cards that I had things so I could refer to them so I didn't sound like a total nut farm. Anyway, well, then there was a certain committee there. Well, then some people changed on the committee, and then it was my turn. And I remember the chancellor from the state of Florida for all the colleges and universities ran down, and he patted me on the shoulder, and he said, "You're going to do great. Just talk from your heart. You're going to do great." He had been another cheerleader for me. I had so many cheerleaders and balcony people through this process. And so all of a sudden, these two people changed places, and I knew both of them. And I'm thinking, how do I know people on the education committee in Tallahassee? This is state government. Well, one of them was the brother of a newscaster that is still a newscaster in Miami. He knew of me. The other one was the mother of one of the special needs kids that I had worked with at the high school.
Yeah.
So I'm now all of us. Okay, so they call me. I get up there, and I go to speak, and I burst into tears.
Yeah.
I just can't not. I just burst. I was a babbling idiot.
Well, you're passionate.
A blubbering idiot.
Yeah.
So I'm just crying. So I'm going to go ahead and use his name. It was Senator Ballart. He got down out of his chair, walked around, and handed me his handkerchief.
Oh, how sweet.
First of all, I didn't even know men still carried handkerchiefs. And second of all, I just thought that was so kind. Yeah. And he said, "Just take your time." He goes and he sits down. And then the mother of my student said, "We'll wait all day. You just get it together." You know. So I finally, and I looked down at my cards, and I just threw them down. I said, I'm not reading to you, and I'm not going to quote statistics to you. I'm going to talk to you as a passionate teacher who believes in what she's asking for, and it's going to come from the heart. Well, I got it all out, and the committee, normally you have to wait for a response, a reply, whether it's a yes or a no. They voted right then. It was a yes. It was the thumbs up. Well, all of a sudden, I'm hearing all of this strange noise behind me. Now, I had never looked back around. I was in this huge, tiered room.
Sure.
Buses of deaf people had traveled from all over the state because they knew I was giving testimony that day. It had gotten out in the deaf community. They were all there, and they were all doing, they were clapping and doing I love you hands, and they had brought interpreters so that everybody could hear what I was saying, know what I was saying. And I heard a voice say, "As for me and my people, you can speak on our behalf at any time."
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like,
what an honor.
So I'm walking out of there, and I'm freezing cold because I was so nervous. And I'm just walking through these throngs of people, and it wasn't that I wanted to leave quick. It's I had a plane to get back to Miami, so I had to get to the airport. And they were all there, and they were just applauding me and wanting to shake my hand and say thank you. So the good part of that bill, in addition to it being passed, it got passed. The good part of that bill is I was very adamant about the fact that I did not want that bill only to benefit hearing students who might choose to take American Sign Language over Spanish, French, or whatever. I wanted it also to benefit deaf children.
Sure.
Because deaf children were never, in the past, permitted to go into state university system because they didn't have the second language requirement from high school. Yeah. And I made the argument that American Sign Language, because everybody would say, "Oh, you're just making shapes for the words," and it's a whole different, it's a whole different system.
Absolutely, yeah.
I made a case for that. It went through, and the first deaf student I had heard later about 6 months after the bill passed, applied to Florida International University and got in.
Oh
I don't know if the student was successful.
Yeah.
I never met the individual, but I was
That's huge.
In my mind, part of why I think teachers are so special is because they shape, well, at least we used to, I would hope.
Sure.
We shape and we change the world. We help children, and I taught high school, so I was, I'm always thinking about, where was your third grade teacher? Who taught you to write?
Right.
Why can't you read? What's going on with you?
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, but we were that catalyst for the next for that group of children, whoever they were that you were teaching. And so that was just a big moment, a huge moment for me. And so I went on with that, and then I decided I was going to get my doctorate. I got my doctorate in special education administration. After I got another degree between my master's and my doctorate, I got my educational specialist degree.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I was thrown into administration.
Okay.
But my heart always was in the classroom.
Sure.
But I did do a time in administration. Then when I was living in Alaska, I ended up being...
So why do you move to Alaska?
My husband, I think my husband is a gypsy at heart. My husband said, let's go to Alaska for 3 years. And about 3 years, he said. I said, Alaska? I said, I'm getting ready to be promoted. I'm going to have my own school. And he goes, take early retirement. And I'm like...
How old were you when you moved to Alaska?
Well, that's the other story. You don't move a third generation Miami girl
that's what
to
I was
Alaska after the age of 50. You just don't. Your bones
freezing.
52 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I moved there. So that was that. But then I ended up on the school board of the second largest school district in Alaska and was board president for a while.
Yeah, just a subtle flex.
Just a subtle thing.
Just a subtle. And then you guys decided to move back to Florida.
We came back. I couldn't take 40 below.
But you were there for a long time.
16 years.
Yeah, so you could, you kind of could take it.
Yes, and that's where my dedication to volunteering and stuff
talk about that.
There. Okay.
So you're there, and I'm sure the culture is just completely different.
Well, we were in a village, but but people, when you say that, people go, "Oh, there were Eskimos."
Oh,
they're called Native Alaskans.
Sure,
refer to them as Eskimos,
right?
But it was just a regular little town. We were in the Mat-Su Valley in a little town called Talkeetna. If you ever have the chance to go there, it's the most enchanting, beautiful little place. And you can see Denali from the overlook. McKinley, Denali, and 4 Acre. You just see all
Where's
three.
like the bigger city that's close to
Anchorage.
That? Okay.
Anchorage, yeah. And Fairbanks. It's between Anchorage and Fairbanks.
Okay.
So at any rate, we go there. My husband ends up getting involved with their senior center somehow. Well, where he goes, I kind of trailed along, So,
how old were you when you guys got married?
With Larry?
Yeah. Yes.
This one?
Yes.
I was 48.
Donna, how many times have you been married?
More than once.
Just twice? Or 3 times?
3 times.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's fine. I was just curious.
Third time's a charm, though, right?
Third time's a charm, baby. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, as you should.
So we started Meals on Wheels in our community.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Because there were people that were housebound and couldn't get out and that needed it.
Yeah.
And we did it. So I wrote all the grants for Meals on Wheels.
So cool.
I wrote a grant. We got a car. Subaru donated a car to us.
What?
My husband came up. My husband's very good business mind. Mm-hmm. He decided that he was going to go to all the businesses in town, the restaurants in town, and we were going to offer them this much per meal, and you would be responsible for making the meals. This month, this month. They all got on board.
Oh my gosh.
They all got on board. Needless to say, our program expanded.
I'm sure.
We did I think it was one of the best things that we've ever done. I also had community radio show while I was there. I was a DJ.
Oh my gosh, wait, I actually didn't know that.
It was called Magic Moments with Donna. That was the name of my
Magic
show.
Moments.
Yeah. And I had the lead in the drifter singing this magic moment. So it was kind of fun. It was
so
very fun.
Cute.
It was so fun being on the radio. I loved that. And then something occurred, and I got pushed in, and I decided to run for school board, and so
casual,
so there was that, and then I just said I can't do it. Well, it came.
It was
time.
the cold.
It was yeah.
That's really why you're like, I seriously can't live here anymore.
Well, it was just time.
Yeah.
It was time.
Yeah.
Time to go.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of what. I know where I was going. It was time for me to declare if I was going to run for school board again, and I just said, 6 years is enough.
Yeah.
And you could already feel the change in the air, and
What year is this?
This was it was 20. We left there in 2019, so I would have had to run in 2019. So we got out of there, we had a 38-foot RV and a Ford F-550 truck, and we was on the road.
You drove from Alaska to Florida?
Mm-hmm. We stopped along the way. And, we stopped along the way.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So right. We're this far, and COVID.
I thought Vegas to Florida was bad.
COVID is on our tail, right? This is in the COVID.
Yeah.
So, you're doing this thing. So,
how long did it take you?
Oh, well, we stopped for a while. I mean,
yeah, but
we were in.
Did you do it for like a month, or did you do it for like?
Oh no, we were a while because we lived in El Paso for a while. Yes, and when I see El Paso today, it makes me very sad because it was a nice a nice area. It was a nice town. We lived in Alamogordo, New Mexico for a while. It's just
okay. So it took you how like a couple months, or what did that look like by the time you made it out back to Florida?
I think we were about 2 years.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still.
So we did that.
You guys are like
and then I was
free-spirited.
done. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, what am I going to do
in Florida?
Now I still have a valid teaching certificate. And I've had several entities reach out and say we could use you, and my time in education. Although I enjoy teaching and would love to be back at it, I'm a dinosaur for education today. No, I may have knowledge and I may have skill, but I don't have all the technical capability.
Sure.
I wasn't born with a cell phone, a lot, and I can't program the remote control at the age of 2 months and those kinds of things.
Right.
So and I know that. I know that about myself. And it doesn't bother me to say it anymore. I used to go, well, I'm sort of okay at it.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
So, that's it. But I knew there was still a lot in me, and I wanted to work with children.
Absolutely.
And so I became a guardian ad litem here.
So tell us
Seminole.
what that is.
Okay, a guardian ad litem is someone you go through training. You apply, you're accepted, you go through training, and guardian ad litems are appointed by the court in the particular, what do you call it?
Like the county?
County, thank you. I'm going, what's a word? Okay. I can see the word, I can't get it out of my mouth. In the county that you live in. So I applied here, I got in, and of course I was trained during COVID. So training had a whole different
perspective
look to it than they have today. And I've been a guardian ad litem now for about 4 years. Mm-hmm. I have had 8 cases.
Mm-hmm. Is that a lot? Is that...
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I always taught high school. Mm-hmm. I never wanted little kids. I don't know about little kids.
Yeah.
And all I've had and all I want now are babies. And so I do the young children and the babies now. And that's been a learning curve, and it's been a lot of fun. But I'm enjoying it. So guardian ad litem, let's go back. So the court appoints a guardian ad litem volunteer. We are volunteers, 100% volunteer. And there are certain things that you have to do. You have to do continuing ed every year. You have to visit the child regularly. You are the spokesperson for that child through everything.
What's the difference between that and a social worker?
Well,
or is there quite a bit of a difference?
It depends on where the social worker is. A social worker would make a great guardian ad litem, right? Okay. They would, because they have all that background. Sure. Anybody can go say they want to be a guardian ad litem.
Is that like a universal term? Like, do they have those in other states?
Other states. I'm glad you brought that up. Other states refer to it as CASA. CASA, if you've ever heard that. No. Don't ask me what the acronym stands for, because at the moment I can't remember. Okay. Child Advocacy, something. Yeah. Anyway, or something, whatever. Anyway, now my brain's trying to figure that out. My brain's trying to figure it out. But guardian ad litem, so you're appointed to this case, and you are with it from beginning to end. Okay. And it is, that in and of itself is probably some of the most incredible work I have done, but it's also, it can be, the highs and lows in this are just,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. Heavy.
Very, very heavy. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking to see these babies that are born, we call it neonatal abstinence syndrome. They're born drug addicted, and what they go through and what you have to watch for a long time throughout their life. So, and I credit so much the foster families that will take these children and get them.
Is that a separate branch of foster care? Like, if someone's listening and they are a foster parent, can they like specialize in this type of placement?
They can say that, yes, there are fosters that only take children with disabilities. There are fosters, medical fostering. They only want children with
like that need medical support.
Medical support. And then there are a lot of times that you have foster families. I can't tell you how many I know that have adopted the child that they fostered because whatever happened, and the parent did not get the child back. The parental rights were terminated, but it's a long process. It doesn't take forever. But when you see these babies that at 2 and 3 months old are given to a foster family, and all of a sudden they're 2 or 2.5, and they're still with the foster family. It's time. We either need to make a decision or So, but it's a lot of work. I have all of us volunteers. We have case managers. They're called child advocate managers. I have a phenomenal case manager. Good. She has become a very dear friend. Good. And she's probably one of the wisest people I know. And I respect and admire her a great deal. I just, I couldn't do it without her.
Yeah, I love that.
So it's a lot of fun some days.
As it can be. As fun as it can be. Yeah.
Court's not always fun, because I swear, I don't care how many court cases there are. My case is always the last one. I don't care.
At least you're the best dressed.
Well, I don't know about that.
No, I'm sure that you are.
No, you are. But anyway.
So tell me a little bit about why children, and why that is something that you're so passionate about. Why teaching you were so passionate about. Like, what has it been about that your whole life? Because it's been a similar thread. And I know that you maybe said earlier that caregiving isn't maybe your forte, but I kind of feel like you care so much about the people around you, and maybe it is perhaps like too much empathy, and it's too much, but you are a caregiver, a caretaker. You really, really are. Why do you think that is? Like, what about it draws you to that?
I don't know. I think wanting to be a teacher was because I had so many teachers that I truly admired and respected, and I thought that's such a great feeling to have. I wanted people to feel that way about me. They wanted to admire and respect maybe not me the person, but what I was trying to convey and share with them. And so I think that's where it came from. But somewhere along the line, I just realized I was better at taking care of your kids at school and sending them home to you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I was one of those. I just didn't, I never saw myself being a mom, although I wanted to at one point, but I never saw myself being a mom. And I never thought I could be a good mom like my mom was a good mom.
Really?
I never felt that. Although I am very empathetic and I struggle mentally. I worry about these cases that I have and everything, but I don't know. I just have to, again, God watched out for me with that bill. I think he knew what he was doing when he said, you go be a good teacher and you be a good guardian ad litem volunteer.
Yeah.
But babies aren't for you.
Yeah.
So
did you, like your whole life, feel like you didn't want to have babies? Like you never kind of wanted that? Or like...
I did want it at one time. I did want it, but I'm not sure I wanted a child for all the right reasons. Children are forever.
They are.
Children need every positive, great, wonderful, special thing that you can do for them because they don't ask to be born.
Right.
And they deserve everything that there is in the world to be able to grow up into the special little people that they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that if I make a decision, I'm going to do this, I look down the road, I look left, I look right, I look left again, and I say, long term, and I didn't see it. I didn't see me there.
Yeah.
I didn't see me there.
Was it hard for you when you were at those, like, I'm asking this because I'm in that stage right now where everyone around me is having babies. I'm not. And it's not hard for me because I don't feel that pressure, but was it hard for you being in that season and all your best friends are pregnant and you're like, cool.
I think the question you're asking is, do I think I missed something? And that's the same question you're asking yourself right now.
Yeah.
Am I missing out because I'm not pregnant or I'm not jumping to get pregnant?
So excited. Yeah.
And so excited. I'm happy the way I am.
Yeah.
My husband is happy the way we are. We are comfortable. We are doing what we want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. I never felt that I was missing anything. Mm-hmm. Now, did I feel that way because I had basically children around me all day long and I could give to them? Mm-hmm. I don't know that answer. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel as though I missed anything.
Yeah.
And would I do it the same way if I could go back again? I don't know that answer either. But I wish I could tell you something else, but I don't. And then everything got solidified when.
Right.
So one of the consequences of being a flight attendant is flight attendants are more prone to having lady issues.
Really?
Well, back in the day when I was flying, there was a plane. You won't know this plane, but it was Eastern flew them. They were L-1011s. They're like DC-10s. They're those huge moving cities.
Okay.
And we had these carts that would be full of food that we would have to push up and down the aisle. Well, that's a lot of weight, and it's a lot of gravity, and you're pushing and you're pulling and everything. So anyway, I ended up with bad uterine cysts and stuff like that.
You think because of that?
Well, they attribute it to that. I don't know. But then at an early age, I no longer had the ability to have children anymore. Yeah. So that was kind of a done. And I thought long and hard when they said you need to have surgery, and I was like, I'm not ready. And they said, oh, yes, you are.
Right.
And I was, I mean, because if you had known me then and you'd seen me, because of what I had going on down here, I looked like I was 5 months pregnant.
Just so
all the
much
time.
Inflammation.
I mean, and here's these little olive oil arms and legs, and then you see this and you go, what'd she do, swallow a watermelon? No, I looked like a skinny person who was 5 months pregnant.
Right.
But that wasn't it.
How old were you when you had that procedure?
38, I believe. 38 or 40.
Did you have other friends at that time that were getting pregnant when you were going through that?
I had a dear friend that had recently had a baby.
Was that hard for you?
No, it really wasn't, because I knew if I was having baby angst, I could go over and sit with that baby. And she, every time she needed a babysitter, she called me.
Yeah. So you were probably happy to do it.
So that was pretty cool.
Right.
I had these kids.
Right.
You know, but little kids, I never really felt comfortable around them. And maybe that was because at the same time I was teaching high school kids, and they could go potty by themselves.
Yeah,
and they didn't scream and yell if you wouldn't give them another gummy bear or something. Right. You know, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
If someone is listening to this who's in a similar position as you, or I have two questions that I want to ask. My first is, because I don't feel like it's so true to say that you had years of infertility, because I don't necessarily know.
I don't know if I was infertile.
Sure. So with that, my first question is, if someone's in a similar position, can't or physically can't get pregnant, do you have any words of peace or words of like...
It's not the only way to have a baby.
True.
And you can love... There are so many children that need a mommy and a daddy.
Yeah.
So many that need them. And, you know, I understand when people say, but it's not mine. Mm-hmm. But yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's yours. You're caring for it. You're nurturing that child. You are raising that child up. You are teaching them good, bad. You are teaching them all the things that mommies and daddies do, whether it's of your flesh or not. Mm-hmm. So I would tell them, yes, that's sad. I will concur that for a couple that really wants a child and can't have their own, that's difficult. Mm-hmm. But God bless modern medicine. Mm-hmm. And there is so, again, like I said, there's so many children out there. And if you want to find out what it feels like, set yourself up as a foster parent.
That was going to be my second question. So if someone's listening and they're like, you know what, this is what I want to do. I want to get into foster care. I want to get into that branch of, it really is like community support, community service. Where do they start? What does that look like? What action steps can they take?
Well, you have to, I'm not really sure who it is you contact, but you have to be taken on as a father. They come in and they do a home study. They make sure that your home is safe. They make sure that everybody in the house is stable. All the things that you want to have the proper place for a child to be raised in. And you do that, and then you take some online classes and stuff, I believe, and then you're like a level 1 foster or level 2 foster or something like that. So there's ways to do it, and I'm sure that if anybody is interested and they're listening, I should have known the answer to this, but
that's okay.
You could always call the guardian ad litem office of Seminole County and ask, when the phone is answered, of course, ask somebody how you go about doing that. Mm-hmm.
How did you start in this program?
Guardian ad litem, that's funny. That's another twist and turn. So when I was living in Miami way back when, my husband Larry and I, we went to an introductory thing about becoming a guardian ad litem, and we were going to do it as we were going to be a couple guardian ad litem. And it was a lot. I was working full time. He was still doing some work, and all of a sudden, Miami-Dade County is huge.
Right.
And if you're living way up here and you've got a kid way down there, it was a big deal.
Lot.
So we said, well, now we know, and that seed was always in my head. So back when I told you we were living in Alamogordo, New Mexico, I said, I've got time. I'm going to become a guardian ad litem while we're here. Mm-hmm. I'm going to see what I can do. Well, I asked around, and everybody said, well, you have to go talk to this attorney around the corner. And and I'm like, okay. So I go over to see him. Oh, no. You can't see him. You need to write a letter. I said, okay. So I write this letter. I never hear anything. So I call up the office. Oh, well, why don't you come in? Well, I came in and you told me not.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, fine. When would you like me to come in?
Right.
So I went in, sat there, got there at the appropriate time, sat there for 35 minutes when someone walked out and said, he's not going to see you today. And I said, okay, answer a question. Do you need any guardian ad litems or not?
Right.
Yes or no?
Right.
Well, I'm not sure. I said, there's my answer. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Right.
And then I'm thinking, and all my time that you wasted, you know. But anyway, so again, that seed was still there, and something kept telling me, you need to, you know, it's like a cat scratching at the door. So then when I got here, I remember applying. I did my application online, and I sent it, and I think in 15 minutes my phone was ringing, and they said, hello, and they asked a couple questions. You will be perfect. And I went,
oh my gosh.
Oh, okay. So then I started training right away.
Can you just start anytime, or do
yeah. They start classes. Start classes. You know, they'll fill a class and they'll put it through. Fill a class, put
That's
it through.
very cool.
Yeah,
it is like a cool community to be part of.
It's good for people that maybe have just retired.
Yeah.
Or it's good for moms that
whose babies maybe just moved out and now they have time.
They have time. You're an empty nester, or even your children are in school all day. You know, you want to do something. You can't sit in front of the television eating bonbons all day. I mean, well, you can, but
right.
You know.
Thank you for sharing all of that. That's so interesting. I don't know if you know this, but when I was younger, before I was always wanting to go to fashion school. That was kind of always my plan A. But my plan B was I wanted to go to school and I wanted to become a social worker. I had my best friend in high school, one of my best friends in high school, she and her siblings were separated because they all went to different foster care homes, and it was really traumatic. And my mom actually tried to become a foster parent, and because she was a single parent, she wasn't allowed, and it was like this whole thing. And it was at that time, I remember I was a freshman and a sophomore in high school, and I witnessed that, and I thought to myself, oh, one day I'll probably adopt or foster or something, and maybe I'll be a social worker, because I watched my friend go through that, and I was like, that's so impactful. And then I didn't. Obviously, my path took me in other places, but I think it's such an interesting area to speak to because it doesn't get a lot of attention, and it is in my opinion, grossly under-supported, underfunded area of just government-assisted anything. And I think talking about this is just really cool. And there's so much to learn from it. And I hope that someone is listening. This is their nudge to do something like this, because it's so important.
Yeah, I complain about... I'll be the first to admit, I complain about the system a lot.
I'm sure,
It's
you see the worst parts of it.
It's a state-run system.
Yeah.
I complain about it, but you know what? It's the best out there for these children. I mean, because when you think about abused, neglected, and abandoned children, I mean, it's not for me to relay stories, but I could have you sobbing for hours with stories that I could tell, and anybody can. But when children are involved, it's to me, it's children and the elderly.
Yeah,
you know, it's the same kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Those are two parts of society that I honestly believe we need to do more for and be more aware of, because the elderly especially, they carry all of our history, and they've done so much for all of us. And then these children, like I said, they're just waiting.
They're fresh.
They're on the cusp of being who knows, the next Picasso, the next Einstein, the next Elon Musk, the next Allison, the next whoever. You know, you never know who they're going to be. And I don't know. This is just something that bubbles out of me.
No, I can see that, and I think that's so cool. It's so important to have people like you in any community, because that is how things get done. I mean, you're out here getting bills passed That's crazy.
Well, I did that in 1990. I will say that there have been several iterations of that bill since, because everybody always thinks they can make a better mousetrap, so they got to get their name on a bill. But I was the first.
Right. In a bit of a lighter note, tell us why you started coming to the Rose, how you found the Rose.
Now that I think about it, after I heard your podcast, listened to your podcast with Jenna, lovely Jenna. Mm-hmm. I realized that I started coming here about 2 months after she acquired.
That's crazy.
This business.
You're like an OG.
And so I think this is how it was supposed to be, because you've been here. I mean, since I've been here, you've been, you came after me, but the point being, we clicked immediately. Mm-hmm. It's been just so wonderful, and to see the growth here, and to see all the changes and this is like a little oasis. People who don't know this should know this place. I agree. And I believe everything that you and Caitlin, my esthetician, tells me. And until you tell me otherwise, I will keep using the products I use until you tell me there's a bigger and better mousetrap. But no, it's just it's wonderful here. Everybody. The thing is, if the people listening will go and listen to every podcast that you've done with the people that make up the Rose, they will understand why this place is so special. Yeah. Because everybody has been drawn to this, and this was where they were supposed to land with all their talents, all their skills, all their hopes, and all their dreams. They landed here. And that's what makes this the most beautiful Rose you could ever see in your whole life.
Stop. That's so
seriously
sweet.
The most beautiful Rose you could ever see in your whole life.
I love being here, and it's because of guests like you that we get to do what we love every day. And I was just gushing on the last episode. We have the best team ever right now, and we have the best owners, and we have the best facility, and we have the best location, and it just seriously doesn't get any better. And it's been so fun having the podcast as an avenue for not only sharing about who we are and what we're passionate about, but then also, starting to get into more episodes like this with people like you. I mean, how cool would it be if even one person decided they wanted to get into,
it would be wonderful.
Like, how cool would that be? And the ripple effect could be 5, 10, 15, 20, God knows how many people, that could impact. Like, that's so cool. And I hope people were able to take away a lot from this episode, because I do think that you have so much to share, and it's just so refreshing to hear someone who cares about their community, because I feel like in today's age, it's so not like that anymore, and people don't care about others very much, and they don't care to help other people, and
narcissism is on the rise.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And, our industry is all about taking care of people and taking care of the people around us, and you align with that so much. If someone's listening and they're like, okay, I'm going to do it. And, we kind of talked about how to get started. It's hard. Foster care, taking care of people in your community, like all of this is so tricky.
But just find something.
I was just going to ask.
Find something.
What is your advice for someone to get through it? It's hard. Keep going. What does that advice look like?
Okay. It doesn't have to be foster care, and it doesn't have to be guardian ad litem, but find something that makes you feel better about yourself. Find something that takes you out of your own head. There's so much noise out there right now. I'm going to give you an example and remind me where we were so I can get back to this. But I'm going to give you an example. I live in a lovely apartment complex, and the school buses come in the morning, and I go to the gym early. So I'm coming out and I see kids, sitting half asleep on the
curb,
on the curb, waiting for the school bus and everything. And I always see them and I go, "Good morning." And they look at you like you're a space alien. And then I go, "I hope you have a great day at school." And they're like, "Who are you?" And
this lady. Yeah.
What are you? I keep doing it. The other day, saw a young man. He's walking towards me, and then he moved over, and I wasn't sure about that. But then I saw he was going to the garbage, And I saw him and I go, "Hi, I hope you have a great day at school today." And he said, "Hi, thank you. I do too." And you could have knocked me over with a feather. I was just like, oh my gosh, he engaged with me. He actually speaks the same language I speak. He doesn't think I'm a freakazoid.
Right.
So it's just funny. So where were we?
Just getting out of your head, doing
get
kind
out of
things.
your head. Get out of your head. Do something. Whenever you do something for someone else, you always feel so much better.
Absolutely.
It always. I have a picture in my mind and my heart, and then it gets a big happy face on it. When you wake up every day, just be grateful that you're there.
Absolutely.
Do something good. There's so much noise, so much negativity, so much
chatter.
It's not about you.
Right.
It's not about you. It's about all of us. And yes, we need to take care of the community, but everybody also has to carry their share of the burden, and they have to be responsible for their own actions. I am, when I said earlier that I could not go back into the classroom, I do not believe in coddling and making excuses. There are times that things need to, happen, but you can't always have an excuse for what you're not getting done.
Right.
Unless you come up to me in both arms and both legs and half of your head's missing, don't tell me you couldn't do your homework last night.
Right.
And no, your dog did not eat it.
Yeah.
I've heard that story.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
But, there's just so much to do. And I think another thing I would say to people, don't look back over your shoulder. Don't look back there. Look forward. Look for the sunshine that you are the one that can help create that sunshine.
Absolutely.
Whatever it is, even if you take I do this all the time now, and it makes me I feel like I'm all grown up or something, but I'll see people at Publix, and they're sticking their cart wherever, and I go, "Oh, may I take that for you?" And I just wheel it back, and they look at you like you're crazed. But, number one, now I have a basket, and number two, it's one less. I don't want to be the person that has to come out and collect baskets in the heat and the rain.
Right.
I mean, that's what I think. I think that's what the takeaway is, Allison. Think about you being the person in those shoes with the reaction that you're getting ready to give them. Would you want to be the recipient of that reaction? Right. Would you want to have to hear that whatever in their voice or the look on their face or somebody that really didn't care that they offered to take your basket or something? Just walk in someone else's shoes at least once a day, and I guarantee you it will get easier. You will be calmer. And if
or
you
patient.
Patience.
Yeah.
Oh, please. I don't even think people know how to spell that word
anymore. I don't.
If you don't have the patience, you're going to become a patient. And, that's the other thing. I don't know.
Well, this was a beautiful episode, and I'm so glad that you're here. I'm going to have a bunch of links to a bunch of different resources for if people want to get involved, articles and areas where people can really educate themselves on, and opportunities for people to get involved, because I think that that's really important. And I think you're doing really beautiful work, and I love that you are a guest. I love that you came on. I love that you love us so much, because we love having you here. And this was just so fun. Do you have any final thoughts, any final words that you want to share before we end?
If you haven't tried the Rhodes Spa, you certainly need to.
We didn't prepare to say that.
Yes, I know. I'm not. I'm a non-paid spokesperson. No, I do believe you will find something here that makes you feel special and wonderful and cared for and loved. And this is a family. Once you get in here, it's a family.
Yeah.
It's a place when I'm driving home and I stop in. Hi, how you doing? Just to see how everybody is. So it's a good thing. So
thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Typically, I would ask everyone to share their social media, but you're not really a big social media girl. But do you have any things you want to plug? Any you should follow this page, or do you have any you should look at this, follow this?
You could follow Seminole County Friends of Abused Children. I'm on the board of that. That is a 501c3 nonprofit, and all the monies that we are given goes back out to children in foster care and the guardian ad litem program. There's that. If you want to know more about being a guardian ad litem, you can go to Guardian Ad Litem Florida, whatever it is, and look it up. It'll take you to a lot of things. And then if you need to hone in on Seminole County, you can do that. And other than that, if there's anything that you can find out there that you can, there's things out there in schools where you can be a volunteer grandparent.
Oh, cool.
You know, you can do things for kids in schools that don't really have full family, and you can support them. So there's a lot that you can do.
Okay, we'll add all of those links. Yes, for sure, so people can find it.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, guys.
Bye.